Hi, what's up everyone? Welcome back. Today we don't have a vlog or a shoe review. We have a camera review, specifically the Insta360 GO 2. Yeah, I know this camera's been around for a little bit. It's been out for a couple months now, but Insta360 reached out to me and said, hey, we would like to send you one if you want to do a review video, use it in some of your vlogs. And I said, sure, as long as I can share with my audience my honest opinion. That's what you're gonna get today. You're gonna get the good, bad, and the ugly. So let's get into it. So Insta360 did send me the camera and they sent me the sports bundle and the mount bundle, but that's a lot of stuff and we're only going to be talking about a few things, the things I actually used. So this is the camera right here. It opens up and pops out, actually a pretty strong magnet in there, and this is, like I said, the smallest camera I've ever used. Like honestly, when I pulled this out of the box, couldn't believe it. Holding it in your hand, it's very impressive how small it is. The other couple things we're going to talk about is this little mount that you can put on a hat. You have probably already seen some footage of that in some of my vlogs recently. And then the Insta360 selfie stick that extends. And all of this is made possible with magnets. But we're going to be talking about a couple things in this video. We're going to be talking about what's the purpose of this camera, who's it for, and I'm also going to tell you why this camera is actually a really awesome camera, but it's been seriously hurt by its marketing and expectations that surround it because Insta360 is calling it an action camera. So let's go over some specs of this camera. It's actually just about as simple as a camera can possibly be. The case actually serves a really, really important function with the camera because on the camera there's only one single button and it pretty much covers the entire front of the camera. You just press it once, starts recording, a little light comes on, gives you a vibration notification that it's started recording. If it's in the case, you get this little screen that gives you a little bit of feedback and you get two buttons. You get a record button and a little extra function button. On the bottom, there's a USB-C connection that's used for charging the case, and you can use that to export your footage, but you have to be really careful as to what type of cable you're using. All my USB-C cables are apparently Thunderbolt cables, and that doesn't work on this. You have to have like an actual USB-C cable. Also, the memory is a 32 gigabyte internal card that's not removable. And the two mounts that I use the most are the one for the hat and the selfie stick. All right, now let's talk about ease of entry for this camera. What's it like getting on the first day and using it for the first time, and how does it compare to other cameras? So actually getting your settings dialed in and everything exported properly to where you can actually start editing a video kind of takes a while. For me personally, I changed a bunch of the settings right out of the box. I made it 1440p instead of 1080. I filmed in 50 frames per second so that I could get some slow motion. The video record modes, there's actually a regular video and a pro video, but the pro video is the only one that's actually sort of stabilized. The regular video mode is really not usable unless you have the camera just kind of like sitting on a table just like this. For the color, I put it in the flat profile and then created a LUT for my GO 2 based off of my color checker. Then after you go out and you film a bunch of stuff and you want to get that footage off of your camera into your computer to start editing, the learning curve for that was actually kind of steep. It's not the same as just pulling a memory card out, sticking it in your computer and transferring files. For about the first week, I used the app to export everything, and that was not the best experience. Pretty hit or miss whether the files actually exported out. I got many errors as I was trying to export. But after the first week or so, I started using the desktop app and it was much better. So if you can download the Insta360 app on your computer, do it. All right, now in this section, let's talk about the performance of the camera. And we're going to talk about a bunch of highs and a bunch of lows. And fortunately for you guys, the viewers of this video, there is a lot of both. But I want to frame all of this in a way that kind of makes sense. And for that, we have to really look at our expectations, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. I would call this more of like a social media camera. If you think about it through that lens, a lot of this makes sense, and there's a lot of really great things about this camera. Okay, so positives. Number one, the form factor of this camera. This has been a very exciting camera to use. It's just so small and lightweight. Like even having it on this big selfie stick, the selfie stick is actually pretty light. And I started recording again. Putting this in my running belt, much less obtrusive than putting a big GoPro with a selfie stick on there. And then also, if you can get this into the hat clip and just put it on your head, like you barely even feel that it's there. It's about half the weight of my actual headlamp that I'm really used to wearing because I wear it all the time during 100 milers. But like I said, the size is the number one thing that this camera has going for it. Also, the ease of use is a big thing it's got going for it. You can just hand it to someone and say, press the front of the camera and start recording. You can give it to a kid. They instantly know how to use it. The quality is also plenty good for social media. I've posted a bunch of stories recently with this, and the stabilization is really good when it's in pro mode. I was actually very surprised with how well it locked onto the horizon. The audio is actually fine too. It's pretty comparable to GoPro. They just feel really good. Like they feel really locked into my foot. Like there's like no movement inside. Like it's just, and that kind of summarizes the high points, the good things about this camera. I think that Insta360, the way they describe it on their website and in their advertising, it actually does everything that they say it's going to do. However, I don't think they should have marketed it as an action camera, like I've said, and so now we're going to get into some of the things that I don't think are so great about this camera, some of the lows. The first thing is battery life, and for me, I use this camera outside of the case, but when you're using it outside of the case, it only gets 25 to 30 minutes of battery. Perfectly reasonable because the thing is so small, honestly, but that goes by pretty quick, especially if you're as someone like me who's an ultra runner who is typically taking this out for several hours at a time. 25 to 30 minutes is like nothing. So for that reason, I'll probably not really ever be able to use this during a race or anything like that. And that leads me to the second thing that I want to mention, and that is that while the camera is waterproof, the case is not. So if you want to use some of the benefits of putting the camera in the case, like extended battery life, you're actually going to eliminate some of the activities that you can be doing with this camera. So for me, running around the woods, filming myself, any type of like activity where it might be raining or anything like that, at any time, outdoor stuff, you know, in the snow, stuff like that, you're gonna have to use it just by itself. Next thing, the record indicator light is white, and that's actually really hard to see outside. Surprise, surprise. The other bummer, I've kind of mentioned it already, is that the internal memory card is only 32 gigs, so you actually run out of space on here pretty quickly. 32 gigs will get you somewhere around 30 minutes of record time. I think that they could have made this internal storage much bigger, especially for the price. Next up, the image quality, dynamic range, and colors that you get out of this camera are on the low end for an action camera. Again, another reason why I don't think this should be marketed as an action camera. Let's move on. All right, so I've given you a lot of highs and a lot of lows, but what's the deal? What do I actually think about this camera? Who's it for? What's the best purpose? And why should you maybe think about buying this right now? If you're stacking it up against action cameras, I think there is a long way to go for this. The thing this has going for it is the form factor. More as like a social media camera where you want something just super tiny. You want it to be super convenient. It doesn't really need to be waterproof. Yeah, I think that is more of what this camera is best suited for. And the last thing on my list of lows for this camera is the price. $300 for this camera, in my opinion, is just too much. I think $150 to $200 is kind of the sweet spot for this. But that's it. My review on the Insta360 GO 2. I think it has a lot of really great things going for it, but as I've said several times, you have to reframe what you think about this camera and just take this camera for what it is, because when you do that, it's actually a really great camera and it can do a lot of really cool things that a lot of other cameras can't. I really liked using this camera, and you're probably going to see footage from it in all of my future vlogs until this camera dies, because it's just fun to use and it's easy and it's convenient. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it to the end, leave a like and let YouTube know that they should recommend it to other people. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.